Okay, so welcome to the first week of this course. In week 0, basically what we did last week was just recap some of the basics for that will be required for this course. Okay, so this week we are going to cover two things. First, today I am going to go over introduction to MPC, just talk about what you can expect when you are trying to solve a problem using model predictive control. And then in the remaining 2 days we are going to delve a little bit more deeper into linear algebra. Okay. So, again the same concepts that we did last week, we are kind of going to cover them all over again, but the focus is going to be on vectors and vector spaces and linear transformations and so on. So, it is kind of concepts that you are familiar with, but unless you have taken a linear operators type of a course and an advanced linear algebra course, this would be a little bit a new flavor to doing the same things. Okay. But today though we will talk about introduction to MPC, and this is just information about MPC from Wikipedia. So, MPC is an advanced process control approach or advanced multivariate control technique. It started in process industry, as I have said multiple times. The important part about this, it is an optimization based algorithm. So, it allows current time slot to be optimized and do that in what is called as a receding horizon manner. We use a model to predict the future, so that is why it says anticipate future events. Something that we will come to in probably week 12, the last week of this course, is this anticipate future events is about two things. Pretty much for 10 or 11 weeks of the course, we will talk about what we call feedback, correction. Okay. What that basically means is that you measure, you take a few measurements and then you correct, because there are going to be errors in the models, there are going to be certain uncertainties, you correct for those errors and then you keep doing that all over again. Okay. So, that is one approach and that is the standard approach. The other approach, or the more advanced approach, if you can call it that, is to quantify these uncertainties, and can you use the past in order to predict also how the uncertainties are going to behave, and that is basically one more aspect of MPC. Okay, the former aspect is MPC is said to be optimal in open loop sense. In the latter aspect, the MPC is said to be optimal in closed loop sense. For most of you in this room, probably the last statement would not have made sense. Hopefully by end of this course it will make a little bit more sense. There are some PhD students over here. For you guys, maybe you may know the distinction between something that is open loop optimal versus closed loop optimal. But again, this is something that hopefully by the end of this course we will get an idea of. Okay. From my point of view, one of the biggest reasons for MPC's success in process industry is or are these two things: multivariate and ability to handle constraints. Okay. This is again something that I said last week, this is just reiterating that. Initiated in Shell oil refineries. Okay. And the first application of MPC was called DMC. DMC stands for dynamic, we have this over here, stands for dynamic matrix control. Okay. That was a company called DMC. The DMC company was bought over by AspenTech, and even today a variant of the DMC algorithm is available in the industry. And then there were a lot of players, almost 10 to 15 automation providers started providing MPC, and so it has commercial origins. Okay, it is predominant in oil and petrochemical industries, and that is now changing. It is becoming more and more popular in electrical and mechanical and electromechanical systems, and maybe even aerospace systems. Okay, so let us talk about the basic setup for MPC. So, we have this process over here. Okay. And then there are sensors, and we talked in the previous lecture that sensors are going to measure only some items that are important to us for controlling a system. Okay. So, sensors do the measurements. Okay. From the measurements, we use an observer in order to get the state information. Okay. There is a dynamic process model that is present in an MPC algorithm. The process model is used to predict the future. Okay. The process model runs in some kind of a computer. So, it could either run in a centralized computer or it can run in a decentralized manner in a DCS system. Okay. What is done in MPC is we predict how the future is going to behave for various different sets of input moves, and then an optimization algorithm selects the best set of input moves in the future. Okay. So, let us say we are at time 10, we will predict the future at time 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That will make a prediction horizon of 5 steps into the future. Okay. We will optimize and determine what is going to be the inputs for the next m number of steps. Okay. But we are not going to implement all those inputs, we can only implement the current input. So, at time 10, although we have calculated inputs at time 10, 11 and 12, we will only go ahead and implement the input calculated at this time. That is sent as some kind of a set point to a lower level control loop. Okay. We talked about hierarchy of process control, right. So, and that lower level control loop determines the flow rates, for example, or the final control element, how that final control element is going to move in order to meet this particular requirement. Okay. And that is done all over again at time 11. At time 11, prediction is from 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. At time 12, prediction is from 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. You would have noticed when I talked about 10, I said 11 to 15, when I talked about 11, I said 12 to 16. Why? Because 10 has already happened. You cannot change anything about 10. So, there is no prediction about 10, it is just how the system has responded at 10. Prediction is from next time steps into the future. Okay. And if you have noticed, I said 11 to 15, 12 to 16, 13 to 17. So, that is a horizon, and that horizon keeps moving. Okay, and that is called a receding horizon implementation. Again, these are the terms that I talked about in last week's class. Let us again look back at the example of a blending control system. Okay. Let us say that we are interested in controlling these two variables at the desired set point. Okay. We want to control Q also at their desired set point. In addition to that, there are certain constraints on manipulated variable. For example, the U1, U2, U3 should be greater than 0 or maybe greater than equal to. It is a very good question. So, the question is, let us say we are currently at time 10. Okay. This is past, this is present, and this is future. Okay. Let us say we have somehow reached over here. The question is, does the past trajectory matter? Okay. The answer to that question is yes, the past trajectory matters. The other question, which was specifically what the question he asked, is do we need to keep in our memory all the past, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9, do we need to keep in the memory? The answer to that question typically, usually is no. Why? Because we have defined our state xk as something that has all the information that is present in order to predict the future. Okay. So, xk somehow is capable of carrying the information of the trajectory with respect to predicting the future behavior using the model. Okay. It does not have all the possible information about the system, no, it has all the information that is relevant for you to use the model in order to predict the future. That is the assumption that we are going to use. Okay. So, under that assumption, the information that you need is x10, in order to predict the future. Okay. In next week's class, we will actually take up an example what that means. There are examples of finite impulse response models where you keep certain information of the past in your memory. Then there are something called ARMA model. So people who have done or are doing time series analysis course might have come across these models, where you say that in order to predict future, I need to keep information of 4 time steps in the past or 3 time steps in the past. Okay. So yes, information of past is required, but we define states such that x10 is sufficient to predict x11, x12, x13. Okay. So the shorter answer to this question is x10 is sufficient. Sorry, yeah. And yeah, there are constraints on manipulated variables, and there could be constraints that we want to meet on these variables as well. Okay, so it's not just the constraints on manipulated variables, but there could be constraints on controlled variables as well. Okay, the traditional approaches for APC can handle constraints on manipulated variables. Lot of times they find it difficult to handle constraints on controlled variables. Not so with MPC. MPC it doesn't matter where the constraints are. Structurally it is capable of handling. It is possible that certain problem formulations are such that it is not possible to handle it, but in general as a structure, yes, it is possible to handle it in MPC. Okay. So the conventional control system uses regulatory PI controller, several other controls such as high-low selectors, lead lag type of control, ratio control and so on. So for example, this is a ratio controller, okay, which basically looks at the ratios and then determines what is going to be the set point. So it takes this value, it takes this value, okay, uses the ratio in order to determine what is going to be the set point. Okay. So conventional system is basically composed of multiple seesaw loops that are handled together. Okay. As against the MPC solution is multiple output, multiple input system is handled as such. It is handled in a multivariate way. Okay. And the optimization problem is posed in this particular form, which means your RA is to be kept at its set point, your RB is to be kept as a set point, your Q is to be kept as a set point. Okay. And these gammas, there would be gamma A, gamma 1, gamma 2, gamma 3, but in general these gammas are used to tell the algorithm what importance do you give to RA, RB and Q in relative terms. Okay. It is also used, for example, let us say RA is in the range 0 to 1, RB is in the range 0 to 1 and Q is in the range 0 to 100. Okay. Then we may want to use gamma as 0.01 squared, so that all 3 are weighed in the same order, of magnitude. Okay. So this is known as weight. Okay. And this entire box is an objective function. Okay. And we will talk about this when we come to MPC a bit later. Okay. So as you can see, it is one objective. Somehow you are trying to say that we want to minimize some kind of a weighted sum of deviation from set point of variable 1 and variable 2 and variable 3, RA, RB and Q. Okay. And where does MPC sit in this overall hierarchy? It sits at the advanced process control layer. Okay. And that is what I meant when we said over here is MPC determines what the set points are going to be for the lower level loops. Okay. There are very few instances where MPC directly implements those set point on the final control element. It is usually going to be a PI or PID control that implements the final control element. Okay. Another example, this is an example or a kind of simplified form of this example is something that you will do for your first project. Okay. This is a 7 output 3 input system, U1, U2, U3, 3 input, and U1 to U7, Y1 to Y7 are going to be the 7 outputs. Okay. And the objectives is going to be to maintain the quality of top draw and the quality of side draw at its desired set point. So, this is a fractionator which basically I talked about an ethylene plant or a propylene plant. Okay, fractionator is one of the devices that is used in a similar plant like this. So, your set points is that the quality of the most volatile compound and the quality of your middle volatile compound are kept at the desired set points. In addition to that, the temperature of the bottoms has to be kept above a particular value. Okay. And you want to minimize the heat recovery through U3. So, these are all conflicting objectives. So, there are objectives of keeping things at set points, there are objectives of maintaining certain constraints. So, this is an example of an output constraint. Y7 has to be kept above a certain value of temperature. Okay. This is something that is not very easy to handle using conventional control techniques, but MPC, as we will see, as you will solve as part of project 1, this is something that MPC does not, it poses challenge to MPC, but structurally MPC is competent to handle this problem. Yeah, and yes, the other thing is non-square system, right? It is 3 input 7 output system. Number of inputs and number of outputs are not equal. Okay. And this is the example that we talked about in week 0 while motivating the system. So, let us look at the multivariate process control, the various hierarchy that are present in multivariate process control. The topmost hierarchy when it comes to multivariate control systems is the plant wide optimization. Okay. Usually it is a steady state optimization which determines how an overall plant is going to be run. But these days people have been talking about dynamic optimization carried out in this layer also. Plant wide optimization, it is also called RTO, real time optimization. Now that corresponds to individual unit level local optimization. So, this is at the plant wide plant level and this is at individual unit or individual subsection level. Okay. In traditional control, you had ratio control or high low select logic, lead lag and all of those things sitting in the APC layer. Okay. This entire complicated structure is replaced by MPC. Okay. What this magic is, what this black box of MPC is something that we are going to learn. Okay. And finally, the decisions that are determined by the MPC layer are passed on to individual control elements. That this is something that I have talked about a couple of times already today. Okay. And it is these individual control elements that are going to implement the final control action. Okay. And this is an example of a typical scale of MPC. Okay. This is a 25 input 59 output problem. This is an actual snapshot of one of the implementations of MPC. Okay. What this is showing is what you are seeing over here are all step response plots, something we will come to in the next week. Okay. What black means, basically this particular blank thing that is there, what this blank item means is that, oops, what this particular blank spot black means is that the input 2 does not have any effect on output 1. Okay. And wherever an input has an effect on the output, you will see the step response plot. Okay. Now think about how challenging the problem is going to be if you want to put decouplers, lead lag logics and all those things that you have studied in your process control course. Okay. MPC, again, it is not an easy problem, Why? Because it's a large scale problem. So, therefore, I am not trying to say that it is an easy problem, but the structure of MPC does not distinguish between a CISO problem or a large MIMO problem of this sort. Okay. And this is the reason, another reason for the popularity of MPC is it is multivariate, and it was originally made for a problem of this size. It was not made for a problem 2 by 2, 3 by 3 and then expanded to a problem of this size. It was originally made for a problem of this size. I do not have the statistics on it, but I think one of the largest MPC is tackles approximately 100 or so variables simultaneously.